talking about my first heartbreak. And my first heartbreak is not gonna be about a guy. It's not gonna be about, you know, a guy who broke my heart or anything like that. It's gonna be about when my nephew passed away. So when my nephew was born, when was he born? 2007, 2008, around there. When he was born, I was either 7 or 8 years old. I know when my sister found out she was pregnant, I was 7. But I was super excited to be an aunt. Even though at 7 years old, I didn't know what the responsibility of having a baby was yet. You know what I mean? I didn't understand. And even though my sister was so young, I could care less. I was always proud of both of my sisters. I was always really, you know, I was like my mom. I was really non-judgmental even at a young age. And so when my nephew passed away, when my nephew was born, I really don't remember like what he was born sick of or anything like that. I just know when my sister was pregnant, they were always having to take fluid out of her because he would pee inside of her or something like that. I don't know, something to that sort. And I don't know if it has anything to do, but so I was really excited to have a little nephew, a little baby in my presence. I was really excited when my sister was pregnant and when my sister had him and could actually bring him home, because he was in the hospital for a long time, or it felt for a long time, you know, in the beginning. So when she finally brought him home, I feel like I don't really remember, but all I know is they had their own apartment and I was always over there. But I think that was after the fact, because I think before they lived with us, I think. And so when they lived with us, my nephew, I was really close to being with him. He was so funny, and he couldn't talk. He couldn't walk. He couldn't put pressure on his legs. That I'm not really sure why. Like I said, I was really young, so I don't really remember. But I can honestly like just remember playing with him, loving him. He would get therapy, so I would be there for every therapy, and I would sit there and I would help and try to make him, you know, because he needed like motor skills. I would try to help him with that, like basic things like grabbing these glasses. He couldn't grab, you know what I mean? But he would go for it. He was a strong little baby. And so, you know, I'm just gonna fast forward. I had seen death before. I knew what death was. I knew how it worked. I knew all of that. But I never had a death that was close to me. Like, I never had a death that hurt me. And so, it was 2009. And my sister had my niece in 2009, March 9, 2009, and she had my niece. So I was so excited with another new little baby, even though she was Chiona, she would cry, whatever. My nephew ended up passing away September of that same year. And I feel like the hardest thing throughout that, so let me just tell the story. I was at school. It was really late already. My mom would sometimes make me walk home, but I think that day she was like, I'm gonna pick you up since nobody was home. So that day she picks me up, and when she picks me up, the van is just quiet. And it's my grandma, it's my mom, it's my sister. Not my sister who lost the baby, though, my other sister. And we're in there, and it's just quiet. And I'm like talking and telling my mom about school and stuff. Like, it's just quiet. And so I'm like, okay. And then I remember that we get home, because my school's literally down the street. We get home and we're gonna open the door to the apartment. And I remember looking at my sister and tell her, why does your eyes look like they're crying? And she didn't answer me. And so I was like, oh, okay, right? So I ran inside and I go straight to my room, had homework. I clearly remember I had homework that day, so I ran straight to my room. My mom goes, come here real quick. And she calls me to the living room. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, sit down right here. And she made me sit down on her lap. And I sat down on her lap, and she said that my nephew had passed away. And I remember in my head thinking, what does this mean? Like, what does she mean? Like I didn't get it. So I cried in her lap for like 2 seconds. And immediately I got up, ran to my room, closed the door, and started bawling my eyes out of my bed. And my uncle comes in, and he's like, because I think at this time we all lived together, I think. But my uncle comes in, and he's like, God needed him back, and tell me all this stuff. And I'm just like, can you just, like, not in a mean way, but I just wanted everybody to get in my face and leave me alone. And then my mom comes in, and my mom sits down on my bed, and she's crying, and she's trying to console me and talk to me, and she's trying to explain to me that death is a normal thing that happens in life. And sometimes it happens at an early age for others and stuff like that. And then my big sister, the one, my nephew's mom, the one, she gets to the house, and everybody's gonna come over at night. For what I do remember, I just think they wanted to come visit with my sister. But my sister was so lost. My sister was so, I hated, it makes me so sad to this day. I hated looking in my sister's eyes and seeing emptiness. Like, I hate that I had to see my sister like that. Like, I wish I never had to see my sister like that, because when you see someone you love just not there, it's ugly. It's an ugly feeling. Like, I would look at her and it wasn't her. And then at that, my niece was small. My niece was still baby and needed to be taken care of. And we all had to help her, And if there's one thing I love about my family, it has to be that when we need each other, we all come together. That's never been a problem. You know what I mean? But yeah, seeing that emptiness in my sister, it killed me. And so that's like one thing that I remember. That was like a part of my heartbreak, was that my sister was hurting. My sister was basically dead inside. You know what I mean? So everybody came over, and everybody was trying to console my sister, trying to talk to her, trying to whatever. And it wasn't until later on that my sister let me know what had happened, because I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know how it happened. I was at school. My sister was basically feeding him Cheetos, and he just smiled at her, and he like fell into her lap. And that's when my sister started panicking. He wasn't breathing and stuff. And but that's from her point of view. I wasn't there, so I can't say. But this, when I was 9 years old, this happened. And having to go to the funeral, having to see his body lifeless, having to at 9 years old, I was having to sit there and act like I was okay, like I was fine, and I wasn't. You know what I mean? And his funeral, his burial, everything was just so traumatic for me. And my mom was so heartbroken. My mom was so sad. This is another reason she fell into depression. And like, I feel like she was so sad because of my nephew, because she was so close to him. She was so in love with him. But I feel like she was also sad because of my sister. Like, she was seeing her own baby hurt because my sister lost her baby. And I feel like that was hard for my mom. And those times are just like super hard. But that was like my first heartbreak, my first death that happened close to me, someone close to me, and it hurt like hell. After that is when I started self-harming. That is when I started just not knowing reasons to live. That is when I started acting out a lot more as well. And I also, a way that I coped with it was using, I would have a journal and I would write in there every day. I would write letters to him. I would write letters, period. I would write things to help me. It was just a good time, you know, for me, for myself. Like, I would let everything out in writing it. And I had anxiety then, because of that whole death, traumatic experience, seeing my sister the way she was. And I feel like that had a lot to do with it. But my anxiety didn't get worse until my mom passed away. I feel like when my mom passed away, that's when everything hit me, because I was actually there at the hospital. I feel like if I was actually there at what gave me anxiety was more the funeral and all that. I wasn't there at the hospital when he passed away to see him and them say, oh, time of death and this and that and the other, like I was with my mom. So I feel like my mom, it was more traumatic for me. And it traumatized me way more. But so that's when my anxiety hit. But that was my first heartbreak. My nephew passing away was my first heartbreak. I was so sad, for not just for myself but for my sister. I like missed my nephew. Like, I hated that my sister never went back to that apartment that they lived in. She never went back there to do anything. She never went back. She made them bring all her stuff. We all slept in one apartment for a long time. Like, it was a lot. And I wanted to tell you guys that story. And kind of, I know it's all over the place a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit more insight and behind, like, a background of where my anxiety, my self-harm, everything stems from. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and turn the post notification on. Bye.